Hi, I'm Mark Breen. Welcome to the Lyman Spitzer Jr. Planetarium's online planetarium show. And now we're at the very end of June and heading into the first week of July. Great time of year to see the summer stars. They're starting to reach their summer maximum, if you want to think about that, or at least their prime positions during the course of the summer. We've got the Scorpion that'll be showing up in the south, and we've got a full moon that'll eventually get to us next weekend, the night of July 4th into July 5th. So lots of things to look forward to, not only this week, but really for the upcoming month of July. And so let's get to that now. We'll start taking a look at the evening skies here. We'll start right at sunset, or more or less right around 8:30. Time really hasn't changed too much just yet. Not since the summer solstice. We're only 10 days past that, and so what we're seeing, still a very late sunset about 8:30, sunrise early in the morning, just a few minutes after 5 o'clock. So some short nights, some long days, but some great evening viewing. So let's start that. We're starting at about 8:30, and we're just going to let time progress just a little bit here. Nothing too quickly, but we'll get a sense that the sky is just very slowly darkening. The sun heading down below the horizon here, a few minutes at a time. And although we're looking at the sunset, I'm just going to swing our view around more to the south here, because that's one of the first things you'll notice. In fact, maybe we'll even pause time here for just a moment. So looking in the south, it's around 9 o'clock. The stars are just barely starting to show up. We've got a nice waxing gibbous moon over there. Waxing meaning getting larger, gibbous meaning rounded. So it's not quite a quarter moon, so just a little bit larger than that. So there you can see it over in the southern skies, but you can see some of the stars beginning to show up as well. Now it takes somewhere around an hour and a half to get completely dark. So that would be closer to 10 o'clock. But here we are. It's now after 9 o'clock, and you can see, obviously, the brighter stars are showing up quite nicely here. You can still see a glow of twilight over in the west. Just kind of bring our view back over to the west here for just a moment, so you can see some of the stars showing up, including some stars that we've talked about in the past few weeks. We've got some bright star right here in the west, Regulus. This is the heart of Leo the Lion. It's just about at the end of its viewing, though. You can catch a view of it early in July, but really heading, as you can see, toward the western horizon here, so it's only out briefly during the early part of the evening. A little bit to its left and out for a little bit longer, we have a star that's showing up over here in the southwest. That is Spica, part of Virgo. Now Virgo's and Leo, the lion, some of the horoscope or zodiac constellations. And if we look a little bit more to the left, this is one of the features that starts to show up as we get into July here. We've got a bright star over in the south, kind of reddish in color. That is the star Antares. Antares is the heart of Scorpio, the Scorpion, and he's really one of the summer classics. And this week happens to be a great week to kind of think about looking at the Scorpion, mainly because of timing. It turns out that this time of year, especially with the 4th of July Independence Day celebrations, we have some fireworks and so forth. Of course, those displays start about this point, where there's still a little bit of twilight in the sky. But by the time they finish up closer to 10 o'clock, the sky is dark, filled with stars, and in this particular case, we're going to be able to look in the south and really kind of after those celebrations, those fireworks displays, and that's when you can see just a great view of the Scorpion. So let's just speed time up just a little bit here so we can bring the Scorpion. You can see he's kind of sliding across the southern skies here. This bright red star Antares being the heart of the Scorpion. And one of the classic things about this Scorpion, just in terms of viewing him, what do you look for, that type of thing, he really has a great clue just by his basic shape. He is shaped like the letter S. What do I mean by that? Let's kind of get him so that the star Antares is due south. So we'll stop that right there. If this is the heart of the Scorpion, and I mentioned this shape of the letter S, of course, we're looking in the south. There's an S right there for you. So if you look out to its right and then curve down, there's the top part of the S. If you go past Antares, come right down to the horizon, and then it curves right back up this way. This is the bottom part of the S. So this is also the Scorpion. One of the things I love about this particular shape is it tells you where to look and what to look for, and even when to look for it. So the Scorpion, obviously S for Scorpion, but also S for South. It turns out you only see the Scorpion in the south. It never appears in the east or the west or the north. This happens to do with where we are in the globe and where it is out in space. That's where our view is. It's always in the southern skies. Now, it turns out it also tells you when to look, because you can only see the Scorpion in the south in the spring and the summer. And of course, here we are in the heart of summer, also September. Turns out, of course, most of September is still technically in summer, and during September, it starts to get pretty close to the horizon. But there you have just a basic idea of what to look for, this wonderful shape over in the south. To help you out with that, we'll now add our constellation lines, and perhaps you can sort of imagine this S shape that I had just described to you here. Now, in terms of turning it into a Scorpion, the bottom part, this is the tail of the Scorpion. In fact, this is referred to as the stinger on the end of its tail. I mentioned that the red star Antares is the heart of the Scorpion, and from there, the front part of his body comes out. You can see it's kind of spread out into three lines, the way they classically draw it here. But this would be the head of the Scorpion. On either side would be his shoulders, and although there are no lines connecting them, you can perhaps imagine a claw extending out this way, and another claw hooking around over here. Those are the claws of the Scorpion. So there's the Scorpion, great summer constellation, and really, he's just beginning his best viewing. It continues through July and August, so if you're looking for the Scorpion, those are the 2 months to look for it. One of the other things, of course, you're noticing, we've got the moon, and it's in amongst some stars, which actually are part of this horoscope or zodiac. These are the stars of Libra, or the scales. Imagining this as a set of scales is a little bit tricky, although the moon happens to be right between the two brightest stars in this constellation. They are the ends of the balance beam here. This is a balance scale. So in other words, from this beam, you extend a chain, maybe down to a weighing dish here, another chain to a weighing dish, not illustrated here, but you get the idea. And then maybe connect it across the top with a chain so that you can see if it balances or not. It's one of the ancient ways that they developed scales, is to see, comparing things in terms of balancing. So that's Libra, the scales, and there you can see the moon tracking through that particular group. Now, that happens to be on Tuesday, June 30th. Let's actually use this program to get us a chance to see how things are going to develop through the week and into the upcoming weekend. So here you can see the moon on Tuesday, the 30th. If we advance day by day, there it is on July 1st. And you can see by July 2nd, it's to the upper left of Antares. It's also getting quite large out there. You can see a fairly large looking moon. If you look farther to the left, and we'll advance the moon there, and again, this is on July 2nd. So this is Friday the 3rd, and then Saturday the 4th, and it's late at night, actually just a bit past midnight, that we see the moon becoming the full buck moon, as it's called, meaning the white-tailed deer, the bucks, the male deer, their antlers are growing. They're very fuzzy, though. They're in what they call velvet. They're in the process of growing, and so you might see one perhaps on a moonlit July night. But you can't help but notice that to the left of the moon are two really bright objects. So let's bring those into better view here. We'll swing our view looking more to the southeast, and we are featuring here the two planets, just tremendously bright, and they are going to be, again, sort of like the Scorpion, a great view all summer long. We have the brighter of the two, Jupiter, and to its left, noticeably less bright, but certainly brighter than most stars out there, and that's the planet Saturn. So we have Jupiter and Saturn here. Now, Just a few things about Jupiter and Saturn and how it's going to affect your view of them through the summer and really into this fall. Jupiter and Saturn take quite a while to go around the Sun. Jupiter's orbit takes 12 years, 11.8 to be specific, but just about 12 years to go around the Sun just one time. Saturn, much farther away, about twice the distance that Jupiter is from the Sun, Saturn takes 29 and a half years to move around the Sun. Now, a couple of things in terms of what that means as you view it in the sky. Because they move so slowly, they appear near the same stars for long periods of time. For Jupiter, this is kind of an interesting coincidence if you want to think of it that way. Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the Sun. There are 12 constellations in the zodiac. Well, that works out pretty nicely because it means that Jupiter essentially spends about 1 year in each of the horoscope or zodiac groups. Obviously, things aren't perfectly lined up with our calendar, but as you look, you can actually see Jupiter on one side of this collection of stars. You can see it forms a teapot. This is Sagittarius. And then another pattern of stars just starting to come up in the southeast. This is part of Capricorn. And so Jupiter and Saturn are both between those. So Jupiter is spending, basically kind of moving out from Sagittarius and heading toward Capricorn. But again, this is something that it takes a long period of time. It will spend next year in Capricorn, the year after that in Aquarius, and well, you get the idea. Meanwhile, Saturn takes even longer to move, 29 and a half years. So it spends more than 2 years in each of the horoscope or zodiac constellations. So these are very slow moving planets. They're not going to change a lot. And because Jupiter's moving slightly faster than Saturn and their orbit is taking them basically toward the left or toward the east, later this year, Jupiter and Saturn will be even closer together, terrifically close this upcoming December. So not only will you have great views of them throughout the summer, but that will continue into the fall and even into December, very close to the winter solstice, the first day of winter, December 21st. They will be just about next to each other. Just a tremendous view. As we turn our attention just a little bit more to the east, I'll swing around here, and of course, probably one more thing, since the moon and Jupiter and Saturn are still in view. Here's the view, of course, on July 4th, Saturday evening. By Sunday evening, and this will be definitely worth looking for, notice that the moon, Jupiter, and Saturn form a great triangle coming up into the southeast next Sunday evening. So again, something to look forward to. We're going to shift our view a little bit higher into the east, where there are 3 tremendously bright stars. You can see them, they form a pretty obvious triangle here. It's a triangle you can see all summer long, and so its name is pretty obvious. This is the Summer Triangle. Now, the Summer Triangle actually isn't a constellation. Notice there are no lines that make a triangle here. Each star is part of its own constellation. And as it turns out, in some ways, you can sort of imagine them, they're all related in the form of various birds. Now, some of these constellations have changed over hundreds and thousands of years, and so classically, they are not necessarily called birds at this point. But let's go back to some of their origins. And of course, you can see the name listed here. It looks like Vega. There was a car named the Vega, but this is actually pronounced Vega, and there's a reason for that. The star's original name, or one of its oldest names anyway, is Elwica, which means the flying or soaring eagle. Now, this eagle doesn't appear as an eagle on star charts these days, but I think you can actually imagine it. And we're going to close in just a little bit more on this section of the sky so you can see what I'm talking about. So if you look at here, this star, Vega, and let's actually let the constellation lines sort of disappear here, and that will allow your imagination to go to work. If this is the head of an eagle, its body comes down to these two stars here, and then its tail feathers fan out below that. Because on either side of the body, great wings come out this way and out this way. And perhaps you can imagine this flying or soaring eagle that's here high in the skies. Today, the constellation, if I return the lines here, is actually Lyra the Liar. The lines, I suppose, don't really help you much. The lyre, or this musical instrument, something like a small harp, has an outside frame that I'm outlining here, and then you'll have to imagine some strings running through the middle of it. I believe there's some artwork that we can perhaps show you, just to give you an idea. There is this lyre located here. Now, since I mentioned that they are related in terms of being birds, you can see a wonderful looking bird a little bit below Vega. So let's just let our view expand out again. The star's name did appear there. There it is. We'll just bring it back into view. Deneb is its name. Deneb, again, using kind of the Arabic term, Deneb means tail. Deneb el Nasir is its full name, meaning the tail of the chicken. But it does not appear as a chicken in the sky, and classically it's not known as that either. This is the tail of the swan in the sky, a great swan, a huge bird in the skies. If this would be the tail feathers, the body of the swan would be located at this bright star here, and then the neck comes out to here with the head farthest to the right. And you can see extending from the body, great wings coming out one side and the other. So you can see how that could be imagined as a swan with its great long neck appearing here. So we have an eagle and a swan, and the third star in the triangle, Altair, is also part of an eagle, but a different eagle, a falling or swooping eagle. So if this is the eye of the eagle, its beak perhaps coming down this way, the top of its head here, and its neck coming out this way. Wings extend up here and out here, and this would be the body of the eagle back in here. And indeed, so Altair means the falling or swooping eagle in Arabic. So the three stars all together do form the summer triangle. It's a well-known pattern in the sky, even if it is not a constellation per se. So there you can see the summer triangle, and it's quite large in the sky. Very obvious in terms of brightness. These are some of the brightest stars in the sky. Vega is the second brightest star in the summer sky, and overall, I believe it ranks number 4. Altair, also in the top 10, it is the 8th brightest star that we can see. And then finally Deneb, which is the least bright of the 3 stars, and yet it is still the 13th or 14th brightest star that we can see in our sky. So all 3 of them are tremendously bright, easy to pick out. One of the things that the constellation lines are not helping with right now, or even having a moon in the sky, but let's let those constellation lines fade, and you can just barely make out this fuzzy band of light, which happens to go right through the summer triangle. Now, yes, with the bright moon out there later this week and into the weekend, this will be difficult to see. But starting next week, the moon will be coming up later in the evenings, and you'll get some great views of the Milky Way arching across the skies. We really, in July, start to see it coming right up across the top part of the sky, and that's going to continue right into the fall. Again, much like Jupiter and Saturn, or the Summer Triangle, or now the Milky Way, all of them can be viewed for an extended period of time. So there's no rush in getting out there, but this is a great time of year to become familiar with them. And of course, nights are warm, so it's a very comfortable time of year to go outside and do some stargazing. Let's swing around to the northern skies and just take a peek in at who's up in the north. Still high in the northwest, that familiar pattern of stars to you, I hope it's familiar, the Big Dipper. This would be the handle portion of the Dipper and the Dipper part coming down right here. But in terms of distance above the horizon, this is about halfway up in the sky. So very high up, You can easily see it, and it's out for, again, an extended period of time. We can draw the constellation lines on, in which now you're seeing not just the Big Dipper, but extending out here, part of the Great Bear in the sky. That's its nose, front leg here, back leg here. And the Big Dipper's handle is also known as the Great Bear's long, bushy tail. And it appears that he's hanging from his tail, kind of dangling down toward the northwest horizon. Using the two stars on the outside edge of the Dipper, connect them and extend that line. We come to this star here. We just pivot our view just slightly. You can see the star is exactly above north. That is the North Star. And it's also part of the Little Dipper. You can see how it's similar in shape to the Big Dipper, but it's smaller, and its stars are not as bright. There's the handle part of the Dipper curving up, and then the stars of the Little Dipper right there. And that'll bring us back around to west. You can see Leo the Lion kind of dropping down into the western skies. And as we continue to swing around, let's go back over into the south. We get a great view. Again, this is later in the week in terms of the moon's position, but this is really your view in the late evening hours right on through the week. Since we're here, and since we're kind of heading through the night, let's indeed advance time through the night. And there are two more things to kind of focus in on here. As we let time progress, we're heading now past midnight, and in those early morning hours, a bright object is starting to appear in the east. Let's pause it here for just a moment. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Climbing up into the east and southeast, this brilliant object is the planet Mars. Mars will be coming up earlier each evening, and so it's really at its best this fall. You'll still have Jupiter and Saturn out in the skies during that time as well, but really Mars will be terrifically bright, almost as bright as Jupiter, so one of the brightest objects in the sky as the Earth passes between Mars and the Sun. So that basically gives us our best views of Mars, and this happens once every other year. So this is about 2 o'clock in the morning. We're going to advance time here, and as we do so, let's get to around, say, 3:30, maybe just close to 4 o'clock. Just a little hint of light coming up in the skies. So I'm going to pause here. So a couple of things. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Let's just briefly check in. Over in the south and southwest, we still have Jupiter, Saturn, and the moon. Again, this is going to be the morning. Actually, this will be July 6th. So this is Monday morning, early Monday morning. But if you were to look, let's say, so early Sunday morning, early Saturday morning, early Friday morning, the moon's not in the sky, but really no particular change. It's Jupiter and Saturn that we're featuring here in the south and southwest. Mars is high up in the southeast, and now we're going to swing back over to the east. And, well, I think you can already see it, but we'll just draw your attention to it and bring our view just a little bit closer. The brilliant object that's coming up here in the east-northeast. This is the planet Venus. Now, Venus is wonderfully bright. Back during the spring, we had it out in the evening skies, really late winter and spring, February, March, April, just tremendously bright. And so now it returns to the morning sky. So it'll be out in the early morning, and will actually climb quite a bit higher over the next few months. So you'll get some great views if you're up early, taking a look for Venus over in the east. And since Venus is there, we're just going to let it rise just a bit more. You can see a brilliant star appearing below it. During the next few weeks, and we'll just advance time here so you can see the change in the location of Venus relative to the star, and its name has just popped up, Aldebaran. As we get into the middle of the month, Venus and Aldebaran will be very close together. So you can see this is actually the view on the 13th, the morning of the 13th of July. So here it is mid-month, and a great view of Venus and the star Aldebaran, part of Taurus the Bull. This is the head of Taurus the Bull. That's his eye, that's his nose, his other eye, great big horns coming up here and up here. Well, we are very close to mornings now, so let's let time advance. The sky is brightening. Venus even will be fading out. And there's the sun coming up. And so that concludes our program for today. Hope you get a chance to enjoy the skies during the first few weeks of July, and we'll join you next time from the Lyman Spitzer Junior Planetarium.